and welcome to this week's largely anticipated Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Sean.
Chris. Lee.
Now, apparently we've got a few things to talk about.
Yes.
I mean,
Well, tennis? It's just upside down, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, I'm looking at the list. It just doesn't... That's not a list I've ever seen before that we've discussed on a podcast.
I think it's a list that you rarely read, but I don't think you'll see like that again.
I think it's good, though, that sort of, what are we, nearly 300 episodes in, and we're still finding different ways to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this week, if anything, the list is 1F. Yeah, what a race yesterday. That was...
Interesting.
Crazy.
It was good.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anything like that before.
If I could have had my way, I'd have had slightly more rain. I think it was a shame how quickly it dried up.
I mean, the drying surprised everyone,
Hamilton.
especially Mercedes.
Well, no, was that not everyone's weirdest moment of yesterday? Like, there were a lot of weird moments.
The one car on the grid.
The one car start was just like...
Well,
I was like, what's going on?
Well,
It could have been stranger. Because do you know what the protocol is if Hamilton would have gone in?
It doesn't exist, I seem to recall. I saw someone say yesterday.
They'd have still gone through a full start procedure, and the cars would have just had to line up in the pit lane and then drive out one by one and begin to race.
I mean, the medical car team did thank Lewis in a tweet for keeping them company on that grid.
I'd love the idea that if that had happened, the medical car would just, like, gun it off the line.
I mean, the best meme I saw for that was a picture of Lewis on his own on the grid, and underneath it said, "We race as one."
My favourite meme that's come out of that was the... Do you remember the picture when... Was it? I think it was Jenson Button's leaving, like, last race, and it had... Oh, it might have been Rosberg's last race. And it was all the drivers had a meal at the end of the season, but Lewis Hamilton wasn't there. Joe, there was like a big group picture of everyone stood around a table.
Yeah.
And so there was that picture there, and then the next picture was Lewis Hamilton sat on his own at a dinner table.
I mean, that is the smallest ever number of cars on the starting grid, and we thought between us USA 2005 would never be beaten.
Yeah,
one car start. I mean, to me, I was just like, I was watching it, and I was just like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And then the lights started, the 5-light sequence, and then they went out, and I was just like, I don't know what I was expecting to see here.
Funny, you know what the funny thing was? Considering there was no one around him, wasn't even that good a start.
No,
he got some wheel spin in the back end, got a little bit twitchy.
I mean,
well, that was the thing, though. He couldn't do a practice start in the pit lane because every bugger else was.
Yeah, it's great. I would tell you what, though. I wonder if we'll be talking about that again, because realistically, Hamilton, because it's not Mercedes. It wasn't Mercedes' fault. It was Hamilton's fault.
No, it was James. It was James Vowles. He said that. He said that was what they thought the right decision was.
Yeah, no, but
I mean, that's the right decision for everyone until the car in front of you pulls into the pit lane, and then you have to follow them. So the moment Ocon goes in,
it's when you've got George Russell coming over the radio, going, "Look, everyone's going to come in here."
Yeah,
because it's bone dry, and Lewis is the only person that doesn't say to the team, "It's dry. I'm coming in for slick tires." That's Lewis Hamilton's fault.
But George Russell defended Lewis Hamilton on the one car start.
I'm sure he did.
Because I know, and he makes a good point. He does make a good point. He says, well, if Lewis had come in, Mercedes' boxes first, so he would have been at the back of the pit lane, or he could have started from the grid and then just seen how it went for the first lap before making a decision. Either way, they were going to be at the back of the grid.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean... Would he have been last? I'm not sure.
I don't think he would have been last because there would have still been, despite Valtteri and Lance's best efforts, there would have still been some teams double stacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the unsafe releases, as we saw, happened anyway. would have, I don't think they could have released him until all the cars had gone by. So he would have probably been at the back and maybe overtaken a couple of cars that were pitting ahead of him then. But yeah, so as far as Mercedes were concerned, as soon as they went out for that formation out there, it was a lose-lose situation. So they just decided to line up on the grid.
I think they just dropped it. But the thing is, even if he'd come out in 10th, it's still a nailed-on win. Do you know what I mean? There was 10 laps of that race cost Lewis the win there yesterday, and if he'd have been ahead of that and not had to be in that battle at that time, he'd have won that race quite easily.
The only thing that cost Lewis that race yesterday was Fernando Alonso.
That's what I mean. Those 10 laps stuck behind Fernando Alonso.
Yeah.
Well, the 5 laps stuck behind Giovinazzi didn't help a great deal.
Was it Giovinazzi?
Not, but
I don't remember
probably
him
not.
being
But
stuck behind Giovinazzi.
the Alonso was the crucial one, wasn't it? That was the that was the push forward. I have a feeling that Ocon might be still high-fiving Alonso as we speak after he saw the replay of that race.
I love watching a driver charge through from the back of the field. I always have done. I loved watching it. Jenson Button did it in Canada. When Sebastian Vettel did it in Abu Dhabi. It's always fun watching a top driver either make a mistake or get forced to start from the back. And how far can they get up the field before they hit that barrier, hit that wall? I was convinced until that battle with Alonso that Hamilton was going to win that race.
Yeah, I was.
But we're nowhere near talking about Mercedes yet. If we're going to go by our normal standards,
no, I'm guessing we're not, and I think we are actually going to have to start with Aston Martin. Technically,
poor Vettel.
1 disqualification, 1 DNF.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, Aston Martin are appealing the disqualification because they said there should have been 1.43 litres left in. And it was
There wasn't.
Well, that
yeah, should have and actually was are slightly different things.
That's the thing. The lift pump in the fuel system had failed.
Mm-hmm.
And not only does that get you the fuel into the engine at the end of the race, it also gets you the 1 litre of fuel to take the FIA sample at the end of the race. So the car was still impounded in Hungary until today, and it's now being shipped back to the FIA in France, where Aston Martin mechanics are allowed to actually go into it and go into the fuel system and find that missing 70 centilitres of fuel.
But isn't it based on how much they could extract from the car at the time?
Not according to Craig Scarborough. He said, basically you can pull the whole tank apart and get all the fuel out of any sort of, little void space. If it's in there, it counts.
Jordan had to do that, now you say that. I can't remember what race it was, but I remember a thing where Jordan had to remove the whole fuel cell, because that was the only... That was when I found out that the fuel cells were bags and not a solid object.
Yeah, the rubber bags, yeah.
So yeah, because they sort of mould around various different pieces, there's lots of sort of little pockets that it goes into that if the pump isn't pumping, you can't necessarily get at. But once they get it out, you maybe get a slightly different idea of how much is there.
Yeah, and it's full of baffles as well to stop it sloshing around and changing the weight distribution. Again, courtesy of Scarbs, I found that one out. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at the moment, Vettel is disqualified, but on track... we were seeing signs of the old Seb.
Yeah. He had an awful start. Let's not beat around the bush. His start wasn't very good at all.
I think he was quite happy about that afterwards, though.
After the first corner, yeah, because he had the grandstand seat of what the fuck was his teammate up to?
Well, I think everybody's bush got beaten at the start, apart from him and about 2 or 3 others.
It's a bit personal, that, Paul.
It's the way you have to sit in those cars. I've seen the car.
So that's why Alonso helped Ocon. Got it.
But, lousy first start, good second start. And managed to throw shade at Maldonado after the race as well.
How did he throw shade at Maldonado?
Rosberg was interviewing him after the race on Sky. I don't know if it made F1 TV. and he was talking about seeing a gap early on at the start when he got his bad start and ended up having to sort of pull out to the left to go wide around all the carnage instead of going right. And he said it wasn't really a gap, it's what I'd call a Maldonado gap. So it didn't really exist. To which Rosberg kind of defended Maldonado, saying he wasn't all that bad, and the nation chuckled. It wasn't Venezuela.
Is it a flood? Are you getting a terrible reception from Paul, or is it my internet?
Yeah, no, I Paul sounds a bit robotic to me.
Oh, dear.
Okay, cool.
Everything seems all right at this side.
Clearly not.
Hang on, I'll pause. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right, I've stopped.
Loud and clear.
This is good.
Stop being a robot to you two and not being a robot to anybody else.
Well, I worried it was my internet connection.
You barely have one.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Vettel was looking good, although we never really saw him go for an overtake on Ocon, which it would have been good to see what he could do with that car if he decided to take a chance with it.
I think it's just I think he had the slightly better car, but it's that whole thing, isn't it, where it's not just about having a slightly better car. You've got to have a car which is like a second a lap quicker than the one you're trying to get past to get past.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see what had happened if the pit stop had not got slightly cocked up, because one of the tyres was a bit slow going on, I think. If
It was, yeah.
If they'd got
I think
that right.
I think he'd have had him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'd have had him.
Well,
and probably disappeared off into the distance.
It wasn't a problem with the tyre. He overshot his mark by about 6 inches.
Oh dear.
So the guy on one of the wheel guns didn't
Just
compensate.
wasn't quite where he should be.
Now, obviously, in Mercedes terms, that's enough for a retirement and to blame Bottas.
Seems reasonable.
We'll blame Bottas for a bit more later on. And then the other side of the Aston Martin garage, the one with all the repair work to do.
One of the few retirements not impacted by Bottas.
He had his own impacts.
Yeah, he very much had his own impact. Like I said just before we started recording, that Bottas, all right, he made a really bad start and he made a mistake. He braked way too late, hit other cars, and that's his fault. That's something that shouldn't happen, but does. I don't think Stroll tried to brake.
There's a Ferrari, that'll do.
Well, he did.
I won't brake, and I'll just take the corner as quickly as I possibly can. Oh shit, there's more cars in the way.
I mean, he did say that he realised he wasn't going to make the corner, so he thought he'd take to the grass. You know, the grass that it's just been getting rained on for the last half
It's not
hour.
ideal. It's not an ideal plan.
You mean where Charles Leclerc was, just the other side of?
Yeah, that's the one. So, I mean, he tried to do a Maldonado and a Petrov at the same time.
The thing is, he zipped across the track so quickly, sideways, that had there been somebody anywhere near alongside him, which is why I think Vettel was quite happy that he stayed so far back, he would have just totally wiped them out as well, and that could have been another 2 or 3 cars out quite easily. It was pretty dangerous from Stroll. All right, maybe he didn't have time to think, but come on.
It was a Grosjean move.
It was a total like rookie error that I thought Lance Stroll had gotten out of his system. It was difficult conditions. It was unfortunate, but I thought Lance Stroll was better than that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have him down as being the worst Canadian of the day, I've got to admit.
He's definitely the worst Canadian of the day.
True dat, or true do.
I didn't realise as well, but I just looked it up. He has also got a 5-place grid penalty at the next race,
He
which
has.
completely passed me by yesterday and all the other dramas.
Yeah, the 2 causes of accidents.
Yes.
I've got 5-place grid penalty for Spa, which is not interesting for Lance Stroll, but quite interesting for Valtteri Bottas.
So the Lance Stroll sort of roll of dishonour, he took out Leclerc and that damaged Danny Rick as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny Rick spun and caused somebody else to go wide and lose a lot of time. I want to say I want to say Kimi Raikkonen had to avoid Daniel Ricciardo spinning and had to take on,
That
just as
sounds about right.
just as the concrete bit ends and it's really slippery. That's where Raikkonen had to go and drive. I think it was Raikkonen. And so there were a lot of cars. I saw a picture of Turn 1, just the Bottas incident before we start recording the podcast. And off the circuit are Lando Norris, Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Fernando Alonso, and Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, it's a fairly destructive moment.
And that's just the Bottas incident. That's not including Stroll, Leclerc, Ricciardo, Raikkonen that were involved in the other one.
That is over half the grid because of 2 cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah.
Jesus. Should we just move on to Haas? I mean, for once, not at the back, but if Vettel gets his second place back, do I have to re-edit the show?
No.
Good.
No, I think you're okay.
Talking of Kimi Raikkonen,
he finished Mazepin's race fairly swiftly. Well, his pit crew finished Mazepin's race fairly swiftly.
Yeah, he was told to go. He went. There was a Russian.
Everyone's gone quiet on that.
no,
That's
Mazepin,
the end of the story, I think, for
yeah,
that, really.
pretty much. Yeah, Mazepin got cancelled by Kimi Raikkonen.
I mean, it makes a change on hundreds of years of history with Finland crashing into Russia.
Well, I mean, Finland didn't become a country until like World War One, did it?
Because it was embedded in Russia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think the Alpha Mechanics were trying to do that the other way around. I mean, you can't really say anything about what Mazepin did because you didn't see him do anything. I mean, they'd already said he'd retired before we saw what caused him to retire.
Yeah, he was marked as in pit for a long time. Like everybody else left the pits, and Mazepin was still in pit. And I went, "Oh, he's had a Mazespin," and he hadn't. I thought he damaged and they were repairing his car, but it wasn't even his fault. He was just waiting to go into his pit, and Raikkonen just appeared in front of him.
A wild Kimi appeared. And then Mick Schumacher. Looked like he was good at defending this week. Because
decent.
He was holding people up at an elite level.
Yeah, and
Yes.
to not just let Verstappen cruise past to try and defend and go wheel to wheel with him, he had a good day, I think.
Now, I've got him in the wrong position on that text document that I sent through to everybody. He actually finished 12th.
Yeah, you did put 18th. It's just force of habit.
Yeah, it is. I just haven't changed his position at all. But Schumacher, definitely 18th. Mazepin, 19th. One retirement.
Who was the retirement?
Oh, it changes from race to race usually. At Silverstone, it was Max Verstappen.
True. Yeah, I think this is 2 weeks ago's list, just slightly rejigged, isn't it?
Pretty much.
A little, I guess, yeah.
Hey, recycling even computer documents that never actually been on paper. But no, I mean it took Max going all out elbows and a little bit of wheel banging to get past him.
Mm-hmm.
There's I'd like to see him in a car that can race with some of the rest of the field. Because it's impossible to get an opinion on how good he actually is or has the potential to be.
Yeah, it is difficult to judge, isn't it, when, aside from this race, we've only seen him pootling around at the back.
Yeah.
He did try fighting George Russell for position, didn't he, after a pit stop, but Russell on fresher tyres made it look quite easy. But, I mean, there was two ex-F2 champions, battling wheel to wheel on circuit. So...
Yeah, just to see him in a car that's actually got some downforce, lack of weight, pace. So basically something that isn't a football stadium on wheels.
Yes.
Right, on to McLaren next. Yes. Danny Rick in 11th with a damaged car from Stroll. Lando DNF because... he was the first one that Bottas hit.
Yeah.
What a privilege.
Bottas rear-ended Norris, which then ended up in Norris absolutely slamming into Max Verstappen at great force. And then I don't think Norris was involved in the Perez incident. I think Bottas hit Perez all by himself.
Yeah, I think Bottas kind of bounced off Norris into Perez.
Yeah, and then Norris did very, very well to detach his front wing somehow and get all the way back round to the pits, which it was only when they decided to pull the car into the garage, I was just like, oh, right, okay, well, if they're going to work on the car in the garage, that's an instant penalty under red flag conditions. And then they were like, oh, yeah, no, sorry, we're retiring the car. I was like, oh, that's why they pulled it into the garage then.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was front and rear suspension that went.
I think the technical term is it was fucked.
Yeah. And I guess they're going to have to look pretty hard at the gearbox as well, because it was a proper rear ending, wasn't it?
Oh, totally. He was up in the air. But disappointing for Lando, because I think he was probably going to be third, if not second, going into that, coming out of that turn one, had there been no accident.
Yeah, he looked like he'd made a good start.
Yeah, he definitely had the anchors on nice and early to get a good drive. I think he was thinking he was going to get a good drive out of that turn and maybe challenge Max for second, but was not to be.
Yeah, it was kind. He kind of got everything right from where he was, because he got a much better start than Bottas.
And so did everyone else.
Admittedly, yes, but
Bottas was later on the brakes than everyone.
But I mean, Lando was.
And here we are.
I mean, Lando was pretty much up with Max during the second phase of the start. So he was going well, and he had the inside line into the corner.
Well, he was behind Max. I don't think he would have passed Max into the corner, but he was looking like second or third, at the end of maybe lap one, had we had no incidents. But Lee, you were saying you thought that could have been like one of those crazy races that Lando would have won had he not been.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think Vettel or Ocon could have really done anything about his race pace. If everything that went down goes down but doesn't take Lando out, I don't see how he doesn't win that Grand Prix. It was a real shame.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a faster car than the top three, and usually does have than the top two, or the original top two, or the first two over the line. I'm fucking confused.
Yeah, maybe. I don't even think there's that much, right? Huge amounts of speed between the McLaren, Alpine, and Aston Martin, but he's been on a different level, hasn't he, than the rest of the midfield drivers this year?
I mean, that's the first time this year he's not scored points.
Yeah.
So no, I think he would have been capable of pushing for the win. Definitely a podium. But
it seems to be quite good at following as well, that McLaren too, doesn't it? We've seen him getting racy with people before. It doesn't seem to get as upset as some of the other cars do.
Yeah, possibly that they've actually designed that in mind, whereas I think Mercedes and Red Bull sort of expect to be at the front, so don't want to be in traffic, so don't design their car for traffic. But yeah, the McLaren works.
And then Danny Rick in 11th. He just never really got going after the first lap.
I think this is the worst race, or the worst race weekend for Daniel Ricciardo this year.
He had a damaged car, don't forget.
Yeah.
Much like Max Verstappen. Like Max should have carved that field up, like Lewis did. He
took some damage, but like when you look at where he was in qualifying as well, he was well out of it. You took 4 or 5 of the top guys, point scorers out.
Yeah,
Both Williams scored points, and Daniel Ricciardo didn't score a point.
Have you seen the video of him post-race, Lee?
No.
He just sits in his car with his helmet on the halo, and just sits there for about a minute before he actually gets out of his car.
I don't know what happens.
There's something else going on with him, isn't there? There must be something sort of in the background that's just not quite right.
Yeah, I wish I'd stayed at Alpine.
Possibly that, when you see and you see what your car from last year was doing in this race.
But what happens, right? Because, I mean, we've been saying this all year. and I really do think I'm not bagging on Ricardo here because I want Ricardo to do well. I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't like Ricardo, but we've been saying, or I've been saying all year, how long do McLaren give him? We're halfway through the season with no real visible improvement.
He had a good race at Silverstone.
Yeah, and that's it
so far.
Yeah.
This race was an anomaly, and I don't know how much damage he had. I know he had a damaged car because when they spoke to I don't know if you got it on F1 TV, but on Sky they spoke to Andreas Seidel on the pit wall, and he did say that they were considering retiring Daniel as well. But they decided to just let him go out and race to see what could happen.
But the issue there is where he was in qualifying as well. It's not like he qualified well and then got caught up in an accident. He was still like 0.6 off his teammate, scratching around trying not to get knocked out of Q2. Did he get knocked out of Q2? He did, didn't he?
Yeah,
he was 11th.
Yeah,
he did. I just don't know what happens to him. And if McLaren do start to lose faith in their purchase, what is that? Is this Daniel Ricciardo's career over?
Well, I think McLaren are giving him the backing at the moment. Seidel said last week it's all down to him not getting to grips with the car.
Yeah, but how long do you do that for?
I think the saving grace for him will be that next year's car will be so different that if he doesn't like this car, they might as well at least hang on, see what happens next year. Because it doesn't look good for them either. If they've gone and stolen a driver from another team, paid him big money, and it doesn't work out, that looks bad on McLaren. So at least they can say, look, guys, we always knew we were building the next car for Danny. We knew how these regs would work for him. It's all fine now, don't worry.
Does it look bad for McLaren, though?
I think
if they could have
signed, it does look bad for Ricciardo, but if they could have signed like Hulkenberg for a fraction of the price to be just as average, they should have done that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The money side of it, it is an obvious thing. But I just don't. I mean, do we expect him? Like now we've seen such like a vast array of circuits. Do we expect him to get better?
I don't know.
I would hope so.
I think I would have expected him to get better before now.
Yeah.
I think possibly there's already been do you know what, this car just ain't for you, love. We'll just write it off and start again next year.
The interesting thing for me was watching, I remember it in Austria. I can't remember who it was that was doing the onboard with him, but they did an onboard of his qualifying lap.
Oh, against Lando's.
Yeah. But
Karun Chandhok, I think.
Was it Chandhok, was it? But he was saying that he doesn't seem to be doing anything wrong in the car. So where's he losing all the time? Joe, that means, I mean, especially there, because you've got 3.5 corners in Austria. And to lose all that time there, I don't know what happens. And you've got Ferrari, which they're in this sort of really close battle with for third in the championship. McLaren really should be fucking walking that now. They should be well ahead of Ferrari, but one of the drivers is hemorrhage points for them.
I wonder if it's something silly like height. Because Sainz and Norris are both quite short, but I think Danny Rick is one of the taller ones. I wonder if he just doesn't fit in the car properly and is wrecking the aero or something daft like that.
Yeah, he was an early sign though, wasn't he?
Yeah, they should have been able to factor it in.
Yeah, but don't forget this is essentially last year's car, and last year's car was designed for two short drivers.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like they haven't handled tall drivers before. Button's a 6-footer.
It shouldn't be something
memory.
as daft and silly as that,
No.
but you know. These things happen in F1.
Oh, talking of driver position, Haas actually finally gave Mick Schumacher a new seat so he doesn't have to sit crooked in the car anymore.
That's cool.
How much money is his sponsor bringing in, and they've taken until now to get him a seat that works for his arse?
Yes.
Excellent. Did he sit crooked during the fitting, or did they just make it wrong?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, don't forget, Haas won't have made it themselves, so it'll take ages to get a get an outside company to do it. Maybe
Why not? I mean, they've got a CNC machine.
Maybe they got it from IKEA and it just took them that long to understand the instructions.
Has anybody seen how they do seat fittings in Formula One?
Oh, it involves lots of plaster of Paris, and it looks like you can't tell if they're going for a seat fitting or they're getting the Madame Tussauds replica made.
Well, it's like expanding foam, isn't it? They sit in the seat with a bag underneath it, and then they fill up the bag from the top with like expanding foam, and then they sit there until it sets. Then they get out, and then they get back in it again after it's set, and then they just keep shaving bits off of it until they're like, yeah, that fits.
So basically, what we can learn from this is there's a good chance that Mick Schumacher farted while he was having his seat fitting.
Or was
Either that, or he
holding
just
one
used his
in.
dad's seat. We managed to get hold of one of your dad's seats from F1 Authentics. You know, just that'd be all right, won't it?
Christ, how much would that have cost?
Yeah, it probably would have been cheaper to do a proper fitting.
Mick just bought it from home, probably. Let's be honest.
Took it into show and tell day at work.
Oh, that should be a thing. Show and tell at work.
Yeah, so Mick turns up with one of Michael's seats, and Nikita Mazepin just turns up with a big wodge of cash.
More money.
Yeah, this is what my dad does. Slaps a big pile of money down on the desk.
Probably best not to bring the fertiliser in. Right, Alfa Romeo. Kimi promoted to 10th. I've just noticed the FIA is still saying it's provisional classification barring appeal, so every position on here could be one out by the time you listen to this.
This might be complete fiction.
Yeah, so Kimi in 10th/11th.
Eventful for Kimi, wasn't it? Nearly got wiped out at the start, got into a debacle with Mazepin, had to do a penalty.
Yeah, 10 seconds as well, wasn't it? Stop go. And still finished ahead of Ricciardo.
I think, was he just the plain? I think he might have just been a plain 10-second
Yeah,
penalty.
he was a vanilla 10 seconds
Yeah,
at the start
it
of
was
the
Joe
pit stop.
Vanazzi that got the stop and go, because did he speed in the pit
Oh,
lane?
yeah,
Is that
sorry.
what he
Yeah.
did?
Giovinazzi got the 10-second stop go, yeah. And Raikkonen's was 10-second time penalty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so speeding in the pit lane worse than crashing in the pit lane. That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
But yeah, bit of a day for Kimi.
Yeah, I think Alfa Romeo had one of those days all round.
Giovinazzi, though, like, we gamble when everybody was when everybody was struggling on Inters, going, yeah, mediums. Like,
Yeah, when he came in for different tyres, I assumed they were going wet, and then it's like, oh no, they've done something different.
yeah, we gamble. Yeah, we go on slicks. Why? Why?
And why him? Why Giovinazzi? Is like Raikkonen might have a slightly more experienced hand at that kind of thing.
And Giovinazzi not taken out at the first corner.
That's true. So clearly they knew what they were doing.
Well, no, because he eventually did make it round and then realised he had 5 pit stops in that race. So he got that wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, technically he was last if you don't count Mick Schumacher's 18th.
Which we're not
Mick
counting
Schumacher-
because it's not
No.
real.
No, because he was 12th. Yeah. Disaster for Giovinazzi. Okay for Raikkonen, I guess.
Yeah,
Point for Alfa Romeo, I think, is a good day out.
it's only the 4th one of the season. Obviously, they found themselves sort of vaulted by Williams now in the course
Nah.
of one race. I mean,
A point.
all Giovinazzi did of note on the positive side was he was holding Lewis up for a while because Lewis was complaining that he could catch him but couldn't pass him, and it took him after the restart. It took him 5 laps to get past Giovinazzi, and then obviously he started making light work of everyone else
Except Alonso.
except Alonso, who we will get to last but one. That's weird. But yeah, I mean, do we give Alfa Romeo the participation award? They were definitely there, and you knew about it.
They were there.
Right, Red Bull. We'll do Perez first. Got a Bottas in the kidney and ripped half the side of the car away.
Tried to avoid accident, got caught in accident.
Yeah.
But the worst thing for Perez is that it looks like he needs a new engine, and that's not an old engine.
Yeah, that car, I think, by all accounts, is entirely screwed, internal and external.
So we will be seeing him getting penalties, which kind of causes issues for Red Bull when it comes to the Constructors' Championship.
This was always going to be the problem for Red Bull in the championship, wasn't it? Is that they needed to go out and get this lead before they start getting the reliability issues that just don't happen at Mercedes.
Yeah.
I think Mercedes have caught them too early in the season.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Well, the problem is, I'm looking at both cars in here. Perez has definitely got issues with his after this weekend. And Verstappen changed to a new engine partway through the weekend. He started on the Silverstone one, but they found a few problems with it.
Cracks, I think they said.
Actual physical cracks. And he's now on his third power unit.
They think they might be able to repair that one. They've sent it back to Japan. I think they said, but they don't know.
So yeah, I mean, we are going to see engine penalties for Sergio Perez at some point, which is going to be, is it 10th place for a new ICE?
I think so.
I mean, don't forget, this is still a massive improvement for Honda, because if you look at the 2015 and 2016...
Oh yeah, they'd have used like 8 engines by now.
Well, 2016 Hungarian Grand Prix, Jenson Button had a 60-place grid penalty. 2015, Button had 55 and Alonso had 50, or it may have been the other way round.
Yeah.
So, that's an improvement for Honda.
Yeah. Yeah, but then I saw it's vaguely Honda related. Honda points with McLaren, I think they scored like 130 something points in the 3 seasons with McLaren, and already Max Verstappen's got more points this season than they managed to score in all the points that they had with McLaren.
Which I think, if that says anything, it's don't let Ron Dennis in charge of an engine program by proxy. Right, Max. Now, he lost half his floor, but in the pit stop. Apparently it fell off when he came in to stop after
Something
the crash.
fell off as he was coming out, didn't it?
Yeah, that was that was a barge board.
By that point, I kind of lost track of what
No, the
was
whole right barge board, like the whole thing was gone. There was no floor underneath the barge board. It was all gone.
Jesus.
And he said he complained he was oversteering and understeering, possibly both at the same time, certainly in the same corner. Understeering on the way in and oversteering on the way out, because there was absolutely no balance left on that car, because there was...
I thought you said the balance wasn't too bad. I thought you said the balance was okay, it's just I haven't got much speed.
Oh, then he corrected himself later on and said that he was understeering and oversteering.
I think that was tyres, though.
Oversteer.
I mean, there was only 3/4 of the floor left on the car, at best.
I mean, he was lucky to keep running.
Yeah. I thought at some point he'd get on a curb and that would just be the straw that broke the camel's back, and that would be it. He'd be either breaking down or suddenly called into the pit. I didn't think he'd finish.
I'm surprised that teams don't whip drivers out of races more often. In a time where engines are so few and far between, you would think that even Max Verstappen... I know championships can be decided by single points, but would you not prefer to take a whole race distance off a car that's already been damaged for the sake of a point?
I guess when you've already got, at the point of the restart, 5 cars out, 6 out very quickly with Mazepin in the pit lane, you don't know what's going to happen for the next, at this point, the majority of race distance. It's worth being in it just in case suddenly Lewis and Alonso trip over each other and you end up 2 places higher up the road. Suddenly that's not little points, that's all right points.
Yeah.
Plus, I think they're sponsored by a gaffer tape supplier and they had to get as much airtime.
Oh yeah,
for
they
it as
came
possible.
in handy, didn't they?
That was a lot of tape. You know, I mean that was held together like a Spanish player in the World Cup. But I mean, the mechanics did their usual great job on getting the bits of Max's car that had been sprinkled all over the track in the pit lane, putting them back together and sending him out.
Did they as well at one point do like the new fastest ever pit stop? Did I imagine that?
No, has that been unconfirmed? Because
Possibly.
TV timing had it at 1.8, but the actual official stopwatch had it bang on 1.93, which is exactly the same as it was in Bahrain, which would be this season's fastest pit stop. I think, and I'll have to Google this, I think Red Bull still hold the record for the fastest pit stop at 1.8 something seconds.
Well, we're never going to see pit stops like that again because there's now the new pit stop ruling coming in from Belgium, where there's got to be greater delays and tolerances in the automated systems.
Well, no, they've got to have fewer people on the car as well, haven't they?
I don't know about that, but I know that they've now got to have visual confirmation that a light's gone out, as well as an automatic computerized confirmation that it's gone out.
Yeah.
To trigger the next phase of the stop. I mean, these phases are literally tenths apart.
The fastest pit stop was set by Red Bull for Max in 2019, 1.82 seconds.
Ooh, this one yesterday was apparently 1.88.
Oof.
I mean, it's
if it measures the light going out, maybe they should cast it over Daniel Ricciardo.
I give him 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is getting ridiculous, and I think it is about time to pull things back without re-adding refueling. Don't forget.
Why?
Because with refueling, you just end up with one.
No,
refueling.
Why do they need to pull it back?
I think pulling it back. I'm only talking by a few tenths here, but actually introducing sort of human confirmation rather than system confirmation into the next phase of a stop. You know, sort of wheel gun on wheel gun on wheel gun stop.
I just don't think it matters, though, does it? I don't think it would make the race any better.
Yeah, we haven't seen a huge number of unsafe releases in terms of like tyres flying off for a little while.
Make no mistake, this is something aimed at Red Bull to slow Red Bull a little bit.
You're on full Hamilton fanboy this week, aren't you?
No, I'm just saying it's dead obvious that it's that this is something that's aimed at a particular team.
I don't know that it is, because we've seen quite a few
safety. They don't care about helping Williams, and they're pretty quick, I suppose.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. But we've seen quite a few incidents in the pit lane over the last couple of years, haven't we? Where wheels haven't been put on properly and cars have been sent out. And just from a safety point of view, just slowing it down by half a second,
We're in a sport where the whole idea is to do everything as fast as possible.
Yeah, but it also needs to be done as safely as possible as well. Like an unsafe release is usually down to a system error. Like the system goes, oh yeah, well, everybody's finished, light goes green. The driver reacts to the light without, the system can't see there's a car coming down the pit lane. So, in that respect, I do think, either a human override or, something more human doesn't necessarily mean a slower pit stop.
Humans should have stopped Raikkonen pulling out in front of Mazepin, though, and someone dropped the ball.
Yeah. I was just going to say as well, if you take the systems out of it and put it more into human hands, that means more pressure on people, and people tend to make more mistakes under pressure than computers do.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but there's also humans have that, or humans. I'm being very very judgmental here over the entire human race.
That's what we're here for.
Humans are able to see and anticipate more than the computers that run the systems. Unless they're going to make the computers super AI, which with the budget cap coming in, I don't think they can afford to do anyway. So
this is what applied technology arms are for. Farm it out to a different part of your company.
Exactly, but I mean, it comes under the cost cap as well. I'm sure it will do as the expenditure for your team. So do you throw millions into trying to make your pit stop a tenth of a second quicker, or do you just have humans doing it and then everybody's is sort of equaled out a little bit?
And don't forget, Formula One is notorious for you get to one state in a particular rule set, you have the big reset to make things go a little slower. Within 3 years, everything's back to the speed that it was.
This is true.
But it's another reason why I think it's pointless. It seems to be a daft thing for any sort of focus on for me. Like I said, I really don't. With the way penalties are being handed out, which is dead odd because I think we'll talk about Bottas later, but I think he should have had a harsher penalty. But we've seen some terrible penalties given out this year, which shouldn't have been as harsh as they were. And this seems to be an overbearing fucking nanny state hand on an aspect of Formula One that realistically doesn't need fucking with.
You've been doing your own research. Williams. Good to get.
Wow, Williams already. We're getting nosebleed territory.
Oh, completely. First points for George Russell in a Williams car, and first points full stop for Nicholas Latifi. And once again, George Russell is the lowest scoring Williams driver.
Yeah, he is. Latifi got a better start than Russell, and at one point, I think Latifi. We were saying earlier, Latifi was running third or fourth.
He was running third after Hamilton stopped for dry tyres, so it was Ocon, Vettel, Latifi.
Yeah. But that was after George obviously had to give places back because he was running second at the restart, but he had to give places back because of where his pit box was.
Now, apparently it was the team that did that because they were saying it was the FIA, or it was the stewards on Sunday. The team came out and said, no, we told him to do it. And the team apparently got thanked by Michael Massey for doing it to save him the bother.
Better to do it that way than get a penalty, though, I think.
Yeah.
Would it have been illegal?
No one's entirely sure, so probably.
Yeah, I mean, it did surprise me when I saw George Russell was the first one out of the pit lane to follow Lewis Hamilton. I was like, what is this? I had no idea what was going on when those cars were exiting the pit lane. It was absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, Nicholas Latifi got a better start, managed to stay ahead of George Russell after the first couple of laps of actual racing. And George came on the radio, didn't he, and said, look, if you need to compromise my race to improve Nicky's performance, then do it. Prioritize Nicky.
Just showing anyone who happens to be watching what a good number 2 driver he would make.
Good team player, I think he's trying to put across there, isn't he?
Mm. I mean, who could possibly want a good team player at the moment?
Who would be looking for that quality in a driver?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You need top teams are going to need somebody who's going to be, on the track, perhaps. After turn 1.
Well, technically, Bottas was still on the track after turn 1.
Bits of Bottas were still on the track.
He was sat on that pile of tyres.
That photo is going to be a meme for years to come, I feel.
I think you're right.
But yeah, after Saturday for Williams, it was just going to be, it's going to be a real bad one. I mean, George couldn't even get through to Q2. And that was the first time in, 18 races or something daft?
Blimey.
He's been out in Q1. Still didn't get out qualified by a teammate. That's only happened once in F1, and that was Bottas that did it.
Only just.
And again, not by much, but
by 7 thousandths, wasn't it? Something like
that. In a car he knew a lot better.
It was about the amount that the FIA wants to reduce Red Bull pit stops by. But I mean, we've said this before about it's shenanigans. Well, it worked in their favour this time.
Finally.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best bit of luck that Williams have had since Kubica in Germany 2019.
Yes, yeah, when
This-
he also
this is-
scored a point.
Yeah, this is better luck than that though, because everyone's in the points.
That is true.
Pretty much nailed them ahead of Haas as well. I can't see Haas
Yeah, Haas aren't
scoring
getting
that many
10 points, are
you
they?
know. Yeah.
No, I
Alpha
mean, you
might
could-
not get 10 points.
Yeah, you mean Alfa Romeo possibly might have a good score in second half of the season where they pick up a couple of ninths or whatever. But Williams have really set themselves up well, for towards the end of the season. This is starting to look good for Williams. Yes, it was shenanigans, and in a normal race, they probably would be nowhere near the points. But there were shenanigans, and they were in the points. And they are going to stand until the end of the season, and it's up to everybody else to behind them now, which is it is only Alpha and Haas, isn't it, behind them?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's up to them to try and catch them. Haas are not going to do it. Alpha might do.
I mean, it could be dependent on Aston Martin's appeal. Williams lose a couple of points,
Well, then Alpha lose
but then
a point.
But then Alpha will lose their point from this week as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the great reset comes next year, we'll know what Williams are then. They appear to be taking on technical staff like nobody's business. So hopefully they'll have half a decent car. No, sorry, a half decent car. Max had half a decent car this week. There's a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, half a decent car gets you ninth. A half decent car gets you eighth. Right, Alpha bleeping Tory. I like Swery Sonoda.
Swery Sonoda is fun.
Well, they did a driver swap, didn't they? Because Gasly was like, "I'm quicker than Tsunoda. Could you please let me past?"
Yeah, so they swapped, and then I think it was a delayed message that we got from Sonoda saying, "What was the point of that? He's holding me up." But
No, he didn't
No, that's
say that.
not exactly what he said, is it?
that's the PG version of what he said. But when F1 broadcast that, Gasly was 3 seconds up the road from him.
And
Well, at least he
Gasly was
paid
so far ahead of
attention.
him by the end of the race that he managed to have a pit stop and still finished ahead of Tsunoda.
And I'm just bringing up the gap for how much it was, and it wasn't an inconsiderable amount.
It must have been at least 24 seconds for them to pit Gasly for a fastest lap.
It was 12 in the end.
After a
So
pit
he was
stop.
30 seconds
Yeah.
then
Yes.
up the road.
Yes. Yeah, 12 seconds plus one pit stop.
We tell Gasly to hurry the fuck up. Yeah, all right. Pierre, do you want to hurry the fuck up? Yep, no worries.
Yeah, he did it.
He did it and got the fastest lap. It was a complete French slam.
It was.
Pretty much, yeah. The last French driver. I saw that on Twitter. It was quite funny. Somebody said, "Oh wow, who was the last French driver to win a race?" Pierre Gasly.
I mean, what was it? It would have been Prost, the last French driver in a French car with a French engine.
Yeah, that was mentioned a couple of times yesterday, wasn't it? Was that 83 or something? I think that was.
It was a long time ago because everyone was saying, "Oh, what about Panis?" I was like, "No, there was a Honda in there."
Yeah, Panis in a Ligier that was powered by a Mugen Honda, I believe.
It was a Mugen Honda, or a Mugen as it used to be on the captions. For
Wonderful.
Some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, AlphaTauri, they
Solid day, innit?
yeah, they can really pull it out. And I still think the separation of them and Red Bull is going at pace.
And a great drive from Pierre Gasly, I just want to say as well. Not just for finishing fifth, or crossing the line sixth. Not just for finishing fifth, but the fact that he was second last at the beginning of the race and had to, really gun it to get to where he got to, and still finish, seconds ahead of his teammate with an extra pit stop for fastest lap. The guy's putting himself in contention for a really big seat somewhere.
Just where? That's the question.
I think he's going to be back at Red Bull next year.
I mean,
I don't
what
think
else
it's
does
impossible.
he have to do? He can't surely be doing much more to catch Helmut Marko's one good eye.
Yeah, he's
Marco's always looking in the other direction when Gasly has a good race. That's the problem.
Did you see Christian Horner have to unfurl his hood for him when it started raining on the grid?
Yes.
That was an amazing thing.
No, old people need help getting dressed.
I just don't think. I don't think Perez is doing enough to keep his seat, and I think Gasly has handled Red Bull's rejection better than any other driver has. He's actually, where they've sent him back down to Toro Rosso, he hasn't moped at all. He went back down and sorted himself out. So who knows what'll happen when he goes back up to Red Bull? But I think he'll be in a Red Bull next year because I just can't see Perez keep being kept on.
I don't think it's impossible at the moment. It really depends how the second half of the season goes. It's going to be really interesting between Red Bull and Mercedes. Sort of, it's not just a battle between Max and Lewis, but the battles between the number 2 drivers, between Bottas and Perez. We're almost sure that Bottas won't be there next year. We don't know, but we're almost sure that Bottas won't be there.
If Bottas is there and Perez isn't, that is something's gone wrong.
All very right for Valtteri Bottas. Bottas comes out the blocks, and is quicker than everyone for the next 3 races and wins them all 3.
With his 5 grid penalty?
Yeah, you never know. Well, if he gets pole and he gets put down to 5th.
But the other question is, Tsunoda, what are they going to do with him? Because he's so unpredictable.
He's not unpredictable. He's been shit. Since the first race.
Well,
that's not unpredictable. He's been shit.
He had a good one this time.
He had an okay one. He put the car where it should have been for once. Gasly had a good one.
Give him what
that's the level of that's where the benchmark is for a Toro Rosso good one.
What, 5th?
Yeah.
5th when it should have been 6th.
But he just drove a better race, didn't he?
Oh, far better.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I didn't buy the Tsunoda hype from the word go, did I? Maybe
I don't think they've got anyone else to put in that car at the moment.
They will have, and I think they're deliberately working on it because Liam Lawson, who is sharp end in F2, they've also last minute put him in DTM where he has 3 podiums so far, and DTM pays very good license points.
Ooh, okay.
So I think the backup plan is definitely Liam Lawson.
I can see now through the medium of sound podcast listener Kieran Thompson rolling his eyes at the fact that Liam Lawson might be a Formula One driver next year, because has anybody seen the text message exchanges between him and his dad every time Liam Lawson does well in a race?
No.
They're up there with the his opinions on Felipe Drugovich.
The text message exchanges are always something to do with Liam Neeson. Usually he has a particular set of skills and he knows how to use them.
And in this case, it's particularly driving GT3 cars in DTM.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he had...
I didn't know that he'd gone to DTM, to be fair.
He did. He won the opening race of the season. He is now the youngest ever race winner in DTM, and he got 2 second places in the second round of the season after dramas. So he seems all right in DTM.
Fair enough. DTM does tend to shake out the good drivers from the not so good as well, doesn't it? Usually.
He's smashing Albon.
There you go, then. That's quite... Also, does nobody else think that Alex Albon's going to have a really hard time trying to recreate Max Verstappen's accident?
This is where I needed the Crime Watch theme tune, isn't it?
Yeah.
I did try to get Michael Burke. I know he didn't do Crime Watch, but to me, you can't tell a story about something horrific happening without it being voiced by Michael Burke.
How did you try to get Michael Burke?
I found his booking agent and I asked him a question. It's I was like, just a quick recording, it's not going to. But then I realised Michael Burke is 75 now, so
Did you receive an acknowledgement for this request, or
not yet.
Oh, how rude!
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do a show last week, and this all came out afterwards anyway. But what the hell was all the recreation stuff about? I mean,
We are talking about Red Bull anyway, aren't we? So,
Yeah,
I mean,
we're on topic. It's fine.
Alpha Tauri, Red Bull, same team.
yeah, I mean, go recreate somebody's lap in an entirely different car.
From like 3 years ago.
Yeah. And see if you'd run wide in that position when, in all honesty, we dropped you for not being quite as good a driver.
To be fair,
Yeah.
Albon does have legitimate experience in running wide after a tangle with Hamilton.
That is true, but tonight, Matthew, he was being Lewis Hamilton.
I mean, I really, really, really wanted to be, a hacker in that video call with 3 Mercedes team representatives, 3 Red Bull team representatives, and I think it was a panel of FIA representatives as well. Like, when Red Bull presented that evidence, do you think Mercedes turned their camera off? Because I think that's probably what happened.
I think if the FIA reps had got any sense, they'd have turned theirs off for a couple of minutes while they composed themselves as well.
Yeah. So for all of our UK-based listeners over the age of 35, is that about right? Should we say 30, 35?
Yeah.
You can imagine Michael Burke, can't you? Max Verstappen was out for a sunny drive in Northamptonshire on a Sunday afternoon when all of a sudden Lewis Hamilton appeared.
Did Albon have that playing in the car while he was going round cops?
Do you think stealing your joke here, Paul, do you think Christian Horner told him to don't have nightmares to go when he goes out on the track?
Good.
And also, that the tweet that we put out about that has been our most popular tweet ever. It ended up on something like 1,600 likes.
That's depressing.
I know. all the great content and all that people seem to like is talking about a reconstruction.
Yeah.
Hang
We'll
on,
have to do it more often.
wasn't that by Tracy Chapman? Well, talking about Revolution. Sorry, I was close.
So if we should we do our own 3 legs, 4 wheels reconstruction of any incident from now on? Except we need to be very careful who we choose to take part, to play the part of the drivers. I think we can probably get hold of Rio Haryanto.
Does anyone know what he's doing? Is he still a going concern somewhere?
You've got a phone in your hand.
I
Don't
have.
ring him.
I'm not going to ring him. I was just going to sort of Google him from afar.
Do it. Just call Rio Haryanto, see if he wants to chat.
If I find Rio Haryanto's number now, I'd be very surprised. But
Alexa. Everyone.
What's Rio Haryanto's number?
I haven't found it.
88.
Oh my god! Shall we just move on to Ferrari, which I think Haryanto wished he could have done, but didn't have a chance.
Yes.
Right, Leclerc. I think we've already really discussed. He
Got strolled.
got strolled.
It was a good game of bowling, according to Charles Leclerc.
Yeah.
Yes, I enjoyed that tweet, especially as he put it out while the race was still going on.
I think he was stewing a bit when that happened.
Wasn't it just before the restart? Literally, like seconds
I
before
think
Hamilton.
it was still during the red flag.
And then we get on to Sainz, who missed out on another podium.
Or did he?
Well, no, he
Well-
did,
Well, yes.
because once again, he doesn't get to stand on it.
Has anybody seen the video where Will Buxton is talking to him and he gets told he has to go to the stewards?
No,
No.
I have not seen
Oh,
this.
it's one of the funniest. It's one of the funniest videos ever. I need to find it. and send it to you now because Carlos Sainz looks like a naughty schoolboy who's been told off mid-interview. Will Buxton's like, "Oh, I think you have to go to the steward. Someone's just told me in my ear." Like, really? What for? Like, can anybody tell me why does Carlos have to go to the stewards? And it's like, team radio over the formation lap, and Sainz walks away. like a little kid who's just been told off. I've got to find it.
I mean, the stewards were kept a little busy on Sunday afternoon after T-shirt gate.
Not really, but
I mean, there was reprimands for 4 drivers for not taking off the We Racers One demonstration T-shirts for the national anthem.
Yeah.
It's like, read the room, for God's sake.
Yeah. Well, also, given what's going on, there's a referendum, isn't there, in Hungary soon? So it's a political statement, and the people use their platforms. It's just that's how it's always been. Sports people always use their platforms.
Yeah. I think everybody had actually got together and used the same excuse that they didn't take the T-shirts off because it was raining and that threw them out.
It was raining.
It started raining by the time of the anthem.
So they just sort of left their T-shirts on.
Yeah, everyone was also getting worried about the cello for some reason that was being used for the most boring anthem performance of the season.
Yeah, I can't
It wasn't the
imagine
most boring,
wet
it was the
cellos.
darkest.
It was gloomy.
I mean, Hungary is traditionally the darkest, gloomiest anthem on the calendar.
I don't know, the Japanese anthem can be quite dark. I appreciate we're not having that this year, but
I mean, they usually go for something a little bit epic on that.
I don't know. I'm kind of missing that we're not going to Japan because I want to see what they do with the crowd, given what they've been doing with the inverted commas crowd at the Olympics. Where it just looks like there's lots of people there, but there's nobody there.
Multicoloured seating, apparently.
Yeah, it kind of works, I suppose.
Yeah, I had to do a double take the other night because it looked like there was people in the stadium, and it's just that they've just painted the seats up weird. I did find something interesting about Olympic seating from 9 years ago in London, which probably isn't interesting for anyone. But in the basketball arena, the seats were coloured yellow and black, which weren't Olympic colours because they'd already agreed to sell them to Barnet FC.
Amazing.
So anyway, yes, Carlos Sainz doesn't get to stand on a podium. Even though he gets one after the race. Held up for a while behind Latifi, and that really what lost him the...
It was by the time he cleared Latifi, I think the Ocon and Vettel were like 30 seconds down the road.
So I don't think there would have been much of a chance. How far off did he finish in the end? 15 seconds behind Ocon. So he'd pulled it back, but...
Yeah. I've sent that tweet through, by the way, to our... I found a tweet that contains the video. You don't need the sound on, although it is obviously better with it.
I will share it on our Three Legs Four Wheels account tomorrow or later tonight as well.
Yeah, do it. It is... well, it's only the short version, but it is funny.
But all in all, Sainz, pretty good performance as the only Ferrari, and Ferrari are kind of in that position where I wonder what this engine would have been like in last year's car.
Hang on.
The one that they're allowed to use all of.
You mean the car that they're using this year, which is the same as the car they were using last year?
But but they weren't allowed to use all of the engine last year, apparently.
Well, maybe, perhaps not. No, but remember, Ferrari spent all their tokens, in inverted commas, on the engine and pretty much brought the same car from last year to this year.
So we would have seen a better Ferrari last year if they hadn't been heavily punished. We maybe even seen a better Ferrari this year.
Perhaps.
Shouldn't have bloody cheated, allegedly, then.
No, but I mean, Sainz was gutted, wasn't he, when Hamilton eventually got past him? He was like, oh, no podium.
Yeah, we were trying to work out between us on Discord what the opposite song to Smooth Operator would be, and we can't.
Rough Disconnector.
Yeah.
Lee, haven't you just done a reaction video to them?
Yeah.
But a decent enough performance by Sainz.
Yeah, he was a smooth operator. It worked.
Yeah. Right, Mercedes.
Bottas is shit.
Bottas was really not good.
No, that's a bit harsh by me actually. But like I say, he got a really bad start and then made a mistake trying to catch up before they got to turn one, and just totally mistimed his braking.
Trying to use solid objects as something to stop you on track never really goes well.
Yeah.
No, I mean Grand Theft Auto, fair enough, but this is Formula One.
Yeah, it's not acceptable to make a mistake that then ends up ending 3 other guys' day. Okay, no, Verstappen carried on, but his competitive involvement in that race ended there.
I agree with Lando's post-race comments on what he said. He said, "I don't know why it has to be lap 1. I don't like we've just started. Like, why? If you've lost time, fine, but this is supposed to be Formula 1." He was very upset, understandably so, because he was on for a good finish, I think. But Valtteri's done himself no favors at all.
No.
I mean, Twitter was ablaze Sunday afternoon with, he's definitely getting sacked after this. We won't see him in the car in Belgium. It's like, no, cool your boots.
I think the best thing you can say about him is that Red Bull didn't get very many points because of him. That's the best sort of contribution he made to the Mercedes stratosphere.
And it wasn't on purpose, because it was just such a freak. I mean, had he just ploughed straight into Verstappen, then you might have a case. But to hit Norris to then try and guide Norris into Verstappen, no, there's no way he would have done that on purpose.
If he'd have tried, he probably got it wrong.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Just very poor showing. I mean, great qualifying, but very poor showing in the race from Valtteri. I don't know what else to say about him.
I don't think there's a lot more you can say, because his race lasted 300 metres.
He took it on the chin, ish. He took it on the chin, but I mean...
Well, what other option did he have?
Yeah. Stand there amongst all this smoking wreckage going, I didn't do it?
No, I mean, he didn't try and make excuses or anything like that. He admitted that he was at fault, but it's a prime time for him, isn't it? They're more focused on Valtteri Bottas than most other Formula One drivers at the moment. So who had to go and make the big mistake in turn one that kind of, brought out a red flag? Valtteri Bottas.
I mean, it was his turn to bring out the red flag last week. It was Lewis last time.
Yeah.
If you're Christian Horner, it was definitely Lewis that brought out the red flag. Moving on to Hamilton. Worries about his health. He's admitted to having what appears to be long COVID.
I think he gave it, not that obviously Formula One drivers are athletes. I think he gave it everything yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
As I said earlier, I really enjoy watching a top driver carve through the field from the back. And Hamilton did it really, really well until he got to Fernando Alonso.
And now we'll bring Alpine into this one, because I think we need to do the top two teams again, just purely for that battle.
It was great. I think I likened it to Senna versus Mansell in '92 at Monaco. Monaco's a bit more difficult to overtake than Hungary, but every time Mansell went to go and position his car to pass Senna just put his car exactly where Mansell wanted to go, and Senna ended up winning the race, and in a much, much slower car. It was a fantastic defensive drive from Alonso, probably the best defensive drive I've ever seen.
I was going to say that is the best I've ever seen Alonso defend, even when he was in a slower Ferrari. when he was defending against a much quicker Red Bull.
Yeah, just thinking Alonso Vettel at Monza, wasn't it, where Vettel went on the grass to get round him?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, that was aggressive, but I mean, it wasn't as prolonged as we saw in Budapest. Yeah, I mean, Alonso, he took a little while to get going this year, and we were all wondering, should he have come back? Yeah, there's your answer. Fernando totally should have come back.
Yeah, I'm
imagine if that was Guan Yu Zhou in that car instead of Fernando Alonso yesterday. Do you think he would have held up Hamilton for more than half a lap?
I'd have said about 2 or 3 corners.
Yeah, maybe. But, only Alonso would have done that in a car that, let's be honest, is nowhere near as quick as that Mercedes. In a much slower car, he managed to hold up, somebody who's chasing down the world championship. He did a fantastic job, and it was great to see those two jostling for position again.
And doing it legally in Hungary for once, rather than just
yes,
rather than stopping in front of each other.
Yes.
There's a little bit of, as we're sort of at the sharp end here with Bottas and stuff, there's a little bit of breaking news just happened.
Oh my God.
George Russell to drive Mercedes at this week's Hungarian Grand Prix test.
Yes,
Hungarian
Yes.
test.
I think this is on the news list, is it not?
It is, yeah. There's a 2020...
Sorry, I just noticed it pop up now. I didn't realise, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's for 2022 tyres, which I think is really interesting. Because if it was for 2022 regulation, to put George Russell in the car, to me, is a bit like, okay. It's a bit... It kind of... It points to it.
Do you need a cigarette after that?
No, it's just... No, not at all. No, it's just... It's Russell is in the car for a reason, learning 2022 regs and getting to grips with those tyres in a Mercedes is going to do him no bloody good if you sat in a Williams.
That is true. And all we need now is for Mercedes to announce that Valtteri Bottas will be testing their 2022 Formula E car.
I don't know. I don't know if Bottas would just break loose from the whole thing and just go, I think he'll go rogue and go and help somebody else in Formula One.
This is why they're probably not going to announce it or tell him until the end of the season.
I mean, yeah, just for sort of reference as to who else is in this tyre test, Alpha have announced 2 F2 drivers, so they're obviously taking some money. McLaren have put in Lando and Danny Rick. And Ferrari are yet to announce who they're sending.
So Callum Ilott and somebody else, probably.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, can't imagine it. Can't imagine him giving Joe Benazzi another shot.
Is that this week? That's Wednesday, is it this week?
I think it's taking place over a couple of days. I think it's a it's a bit of a biggie. I think they've got a couple of days.
Yeah, it's kind of after-school club during the summer holidays. That's why it's mostly the kids. Anyway, yes, where were we? Sort of
Alpine and Mercedes kind of
Alpine
together.
and Mercedes, yeah. I mean, Alonso's performance, like I say, I think that's just about the best I have ever seen from him. Actually going wheel to wheel. I am now Team Alonso. God, I never thought I'd say that. I'll probably have my opinion changed in 2 weeks' time. He'll do something or something will happen that he knows nothing about.
Yes, it was a fantastic... this does come with a caveat. It was a fantastic defensive drive from Alonso, and Alonso is the reason that Esteban Ocon won that race. But that also must hurt that Esteban Ocon won that race.
It must do, but he seemed to take it really well. I was thinking that yesterday. I thought, Alonso is not going to be happy if someone else wins it first. But he was in Parc Ferme waiting for Ocon. He seemed genuinely
Who went
happy
the wrong
for him.
way?
Yeah, well, he's not had to part. Well, he's only done one podium before. He might not have read what the race notes were for if you're on the podium.
That was his first win since GP3 in 2015.
That's a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so if somebody asked me to repeat something I'd done 6 years ago, I'd probably struggle. No red aren't getting back together, Flood.
That was more than 6 years ago.
I think if Alonso had been being beaten by Ocon like regularly this year, it might have been a different matter. You know, there was no real. It was like a fortunate opportunity that came along, wasn't it? So that's why I don't think Alonso would have been upset by any of it.
He was also watching the majority of the coverage on TV and not getting orders off team radio. Because he was watching what Hamilton was doing on the big screens around the course. And that's where he got his ideas from. He said that himself.
Also, I thought it was quite interesting with Alonso that he was saying that when Sky were asking him about how he managed to hold off Lewis Hamilton for so long, he was almost like driver coaching Lewis Hamilton. He's just like, well, you know, I think Lewis was making a couple of little mistakes in the last two corners. Just my opinion, but
That will have gone down well.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. It just seemed to me like he was making a couple of little mistakes. Like, how could you tell? He was in your mirrors, and you're doing it at a ridiculous speed. Well, it's just like Fernando Alonso's driver coaching experience. Like, I'll race you really hard and then tell you what you've done wrong.
I mean, don't forget, Lewis may be the master of mind games, but he had to learn from someone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, and who was his mind games mentor in his first season of Formula One?
Yeah, Hamilton does love a mind game.
Well, that's what he wants you to think. Right, yeah. So Hamilton worried about his health, struggled on the podium, and
He looked really bad, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, Ocon had to help him up onto the top step for the photo shoot at the end. He's now said he's got all the symptoms of long COVID because he's been struggling with this since the back end of last year.
Strange though, isn't it? Yeah, he's competed in half a championship since then.
Said he had something similar at Silverstone, but nowhere near as bad.
Yeah, no, it just seems odd like that to raise its head now so long after. You know, considering he was only sick for like a week as well. He only missed a week.
But the other problem that he had, we're still waiting for team confirmation on this, but apparently his drink system failed in the first few laps.
See, that wouldn't help because it's hot and it was a long race.
And
See, this is what I think it is. I think it's dehydration, and I think he's said like he's given a reason to it rather than to show some sort of sign of physical weakness. Do you know what I mean? I think
It could be a bit of both. He might have been dealing with a bit of long COVID and some added dehydration hasn't helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently, if the internet's to be believed, he didn't have a drink since lap 10.
You're not ideal.
How big are the water bottles that they put in Formula One cars? Aren't they like 1.5 litres or something?
Think so. That rings a bell.
Yeah, so I don't think they're massive.
They're packed though, aren't they? They're packed full of like electrolyte type stuff.
Yeah, it's not water.
Although there was one race a few years ago. There was one race a few years ago where Raikkonen was whinging that his water bottle hadn't been working. This is when he was at Ferrari, and Ericsson afterwards turned around and said, "Well, at Sauber, we've not had a drinks bottle in the car for a couple of years because we can't afford the weight."
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember the F2 race where George Russell chucked his out on the grid because it came loose.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it rattling round.
I can't remember who it was now, but I remember somebody else's drinks bottle. It might have been Coulthard. Somebody else's drinks bottle broke through the race, and he said when he crossed the line, he was seeing like blurred vision. He couldn't see properly. He was that dehydrated.
There was one IndyCar driver not so long back. The mounting on it slipped and it ended up on the exhaust path, and he was drinking boiling water all the way through the race.
Some of that happened in F1 as well. I can't remember who it was, but I want to say that was Kimi Raikkonen, where he was drinking hot water and he was complaining that his water was hot.
Yeah, I'm almost convinced David Coulthard said he used to ask them to put tea in it.
That rings a bell. Someone with
Did.
tea definitely rings a bell.
Yeah. So it didn't feel like he was just drinking warm, sort of sugary water. It just felt like he was drinking tea.
Ah.
I've just got one of them camel packs for when I'm out cycling. I wonder if I could get away with a nice latte in there or two.
Not sure about that.
Well, it might work. So Ocon managed to get through the carnage on turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
Got out of the pits on the double restart.
Yeah.
They need to find a name for a start like that. But got out the pit spine on the double restart. Led from when Hamilton pulled in for his pit stop, and then never looked back.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yeah. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, one hell of a way to get your first win.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when it was being completely written off. But did everything that was required? What is that? The first Enstone win since Kimi?
It must
Will be, won't it?
Yeah.
Bloody hell!
I can't remember the Enstone team won a race since Kimi. Don't think they did.
No, because the last version of Renault didn't. So yeah, Enstone's first race win in years.
Daniel Ricciardo only got a podium, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he managed two podiums last year.
Yeah.
Did Cyril ever get the tattoo?
I don't think it's ever been seen in public.
Cyril hasn't been seen in public since he lost his job.
That's also true.
So, rock stars and wankers.
Oh.
I've got a feeling I know who's going on the wanker list.
Sorry, Valtteri.
Lance Stroll.
Also
Bottas, Lance Stroll, barge boards, or the lack of barge boards, robbing us of. I mean, because that's the thing. Even if like we hadn't had the crazy race, if Bottas hadn't have like creamed into half the grid, we'd have seen a titanic battle between Max and Lewis there.
Yeah.
And
I'd have preferred that. Yeah, I'd have preferred to see that than a battle between Ocon and Vettel, no matter how different it was.
Another one for the wanker list. The Aston Martin lift pump in Vettel's car subject to the appeal results.
Whoever it was whose decision it was to release Kimi Raikkonen into path of Nikita Mazepin.
Now, that could have been a computer.
Could have been. Computers can be wankers too.
Mine occasionally. Well, no. Computers can definitely be wankers. I work in IT support. It's not just the users. Rock stars.
Weather. Bit of weather. Always livens it up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Goes without saying, Ocon.
Yeah.
the race
Alonso,
control
obviously.
for doing the full start. When it was only Lewis Hamilton on the grid. Oh Christ! Have we really got to do the 5 lights thing?
I mean, it'd have been bloody interesting if Hamilton had a pit. What would Crofty have said?
Imagine he stalled.
It's light out, and away he goes.
But imagine he stalled and had to do the formation lap or go to the back of the grid.
I mean, what would have happened then? Would they have had to leave everybody else in the pits while Lewis did a formation lap?
Nobody knows.
I'm looking forward to finding out what these new regulations are going to be. I think the FIA and F1 are rapidly rewriting the rule book for just in case this happens again.
Because you can't go, can you, from the pit lane until the light goes green, and the light doesn't go green until the last car has passed the exit of the pit lane. And seeing as there was only one car that passed the exit of the pit lane, it was quite an easy job to be like, oh, there he goes, green light.
I mean, that was... I honestly don't think we'll ever see another race quite like that.
No, I don't think we will either. But we might see races like Germany 2019 where it's just wet and really slippery and very difficult to control, and you just don't know who's going to win right up to the last lap. But then
we'll never see a race start like that again.
It's just one car. And then Russell pulled out of the pits in second place. It was so confusing.
I think Rockstar Award for trying that move.
Well, no, the reason that he had to do it was because of where his pit box was. So he exited his pit box and was like almost exiting the pits anyway. So he just happened, when the light went green, he was just the first one out. So he overtook like 6 or 7 cars getting into his pit box. So that's how he ended up ahead of everyone. He didn't like overtake them on purpose.
There's going to be well, no. He said, shall I go for it? Nobody replied, and he thought, sod it, I am going for it.
Yeah,
there was an element of on purposeness in there. Yeah, there's gonna be some rule clarifications. Any other nominations?
Rockstar, I want to give an honourable mention to George Russell for his message where he says, if you need to compromise my race to help, what's his name? He was called
Nicholas
Nicky.
Yeah,
he was called Nicky. That's why I was getting confused. I just thought that was such a good team message, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And maybe one for Hamilton for managing to go from first to last to second.
Should have won the race from last. Yeah, he had a great drive. There was loads of good drives this weekend. Do you know what? I am doing it. Sorry, halfway through the season, wasting a McLaren. I'm sticking Ricciardo in the wanker barrel.
Ooh, strong.
Ooh. Any Giovinazzi participation awards?
I mean, Giovinazzi himself.
Ricciardo.
Giovinazzi.
And yeah, Antonio Giovinazzi for definite. We gamble. Why?
It's not going to work. Tell you what, I'm at the roulette table. I'll put everything on 000. There isn't one. Do it anyway. So we're into the summer break now. Are we officially in the silly season?
Yes.
I think it's coming. I don't think a true silly season announcement will be like this week, but I think there will be at least some kind of big silly season kickoff before Spa.
So, there's 3 more Tuesdays between now and Spa.
Yeah, one of them will have a silly news day.
Yeah, we can rule out this week, so I've probably cursed it, and that sentence is already out of date by the time you listen to this. Unless you're on Patreon.
I think we'll hear it at Spa.
Oh.
Ooh,
We'll hear the Mercedes announcement, whoever it is, probably George, at Spa.
Talking of Spa, get well soon, Jack Aitken. That was a horrific crash. It was a bad weekend for crashes this weekend. I saw a clip of the Spa one. My God, the safety equipment in GT3 is amazing. If all Jack Aitken got from that was a broken collarbone.
Broken vertebra as well, I think, but a stable fracture.
And if anyone saw the selfie that he put on Instagram, some really quality painkillers.
He acknowledged the painkillers.
Yeah, one eye was going for the shopping, the other was coming back with the change.
Yeah, I did see that, but also thoughts with the family who lost the marshal at the Brands Hatch over the weekend.
Yeah, now don't know if anyone's seen this, but friend of the podcast, Alice Powell, has put together a Just Giving page. I shared a link on Three Legs Four Wheels Twitter during the week. If you can, go on there and click on a donation. It's going to the friends and family, and I assume there's going to be money being given to marshal support organisations as well, because marshals worldwide volunteer the time. Now, we know how important they are locally at the team.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And basically, motorsport events couldn't happen on the scale that they do without the Orange Army of volunteers that give up all the time. And it's really sad when one of them loses a life doing the thing that they love. So if you can afford it, drop a few quid in the fundraising. And next time you're at a race meeting, just say thank you to the marshals in any way that you can.
Always drop some coins in the bucket for the Marshals Association at any sporting event.
Yeah, definitely. Lee, have you got a shunt?
We'll have somewhere. I've had a few extra ones sent in, but I picked one that I thought was right down the fucking alley for this week.
Is it?
Are you the Hungarian Grand Prix?
I am the no.
Are you a barge board?
I am ready.
Oh,
That's what I am. I'm
wrong.
ready.
Right. Who is this week's shuntist?
Stick me spectacles on. This is from Ben Johnson.
Oh, a name you can pronounce.
He's been here before.
Demonic Turtle, if I remember rightly. Regular
Oh, that's
tweetist.
I'm assuming that's a
That's not very
Twitter
nice.
name, and you're not just.
I'm not just calling him
you're not just
randomly
calling
Demonic
him
Turtle.
a thing.
No, I think he is the Twitter Demonic Turtle.
I was born
Yay.
in 1989.
Okay.
All right.
Could be Daniel Ricciardo.
Could be.
I was a lance corporal in the army.
Probably not Daniel Ricciardo.
Can't imagine it.
I began my open-wheeled racing career in 2007.
Right.
So it's 18. So this is going to be.
That could be.
There's lots of countries, aren't there, that have still sort of what do you call it?
National
Mandatory-
service.
Yeah.
Yeah, mandatory national service.
Yeah, because Kimi was a second lieutenant or something,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't he? And Mazepin's a deserter. And
How about Yuri Vips? Does Estonia do? I know Finland does. Because
Yuri Vips, I think, is a little bit
I
younger.
think he's about 26,
Yeah.
27, isn't he?
yeah, fair enough.
This is sort of age-wise. This is someone who it would, if they've done F1, they'll have been there by now.
Marcus Ericsson.
Marcus Ericsson is younger.
Is he?
Yeah, he's not that old, Marcus Ericsson.
God.
I don't think he's that old yet. He may
had,
be.
Yeah, he had money and got into F1, sort of without having to do too much junior.
K-Mac?
K-Mag is younger.
Another one washed up. Just trying to think of any sort of other likely from countries that do national service. Petrov's too old.
Yes, I
think.
think so.
But I can't think of anyone from anywhere else. I'm going to throw Vitaly Petrov out there.
Okay.
I'm just testing the curb.
In 2010, I became a test driver for a Formula One team.
He'd already raced by then, hadn't he?
I think he was in by then, yeah.
Where are we? I co-own a coffee roastery.
Okay.
Is this when did Bottas make his debut?
Yeah, I got a feeling that it could be Valtteri Bottas.
He was doing the Fridays, wasn't he, for a year before he actually started. He definitely
2012.
has.
I think his first year was 2013.
Yeah, and he definitely has the coffee roastery.
And he could have been a lance corporal in the army quite easily.
Yes, because Finland do have the armies, and he's about that age.
In 2014, I won Sky Sports Most Improved Driver of the Year.
2014 was when Williams had their resurgence at the beginning of the hybrid era, and Bottas, right from the off, was looking pretty handy.
Correct.
Yes,
I'd like a guess, please.
I think we're going for the
I
Bottas.
think so.
I scored my first points in the 2013 United States Grand Prix.
I don't remember it specifically, but that would be about right, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that was at Austin by that time already, wasn't
Yes.
it? The
Yes.
2013. So first point would have been top 10 finish then.
I got my first podium at the 2014 Austrian Grand Prix.
Yeah, that would have been
2014 Austrian
Williams.
Grand Prix.
That was when Williams were good.
I have won 4 world championships.
Oh,
Yeah, 4 Constructors' World Championships.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, cryptic. Ish.
I have scored 1,620 points in Formula One.
Not that he's counting. When were these clues written? I suppose it doesn't matter after yesterday.
I was going to
does
say,
it?
if it was last week, it's still valid.
So many drivers retired yesterday that Lando Norris is still third in the championship. That's true.
Would you like to give me a guess?
Oh, are we staying with the bot?
I think so.
I think you're Valtteri Bottas.
I'm Valtteri Bottas.
Yay!
Therefore, wasting even the chair I'm sat on.
Thanks for sending that one in, Ben. Lee, do you want to tell people how you can send in a total shunt?
You can send me a PM on Twitter at a total shunt. You can send me a PM on Instagram at a total shunt, and you could even PM me on TikTok at a total shunt.
Oh my God, you've become a 14-year-old child that's making viral dance videos.
Yep.
Now, this has to be seen to be believed. You can also send ones for the reserve list to 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, and you can use that address to get in touch with us in general if you want to get in touch with the show, ask a question, or anything like that. We're also at 3legs4wheels on all the regular socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but not TikTok.
What would we as a collective put on TikTok?
Cat videos.
Probably.
That's all I could think to put on.
TikTok.
You know how we didn't? You know how we didn't podcast last week?
Yeah.
Were you on
forgot
TikTok?
to give- No, we forgot to give Gemma her birthday shout out because it was her birthday podcast last week, and I think we've been doing it every year since we've been a podcast.
Oh, God, we have. It's been a tradition. So happy birthday for last week,
Happy
Gemma.
birthday!
And I know she did send a tweet this week because there was a Twitter account wanted to know what F1 podcast people listen to, and she said we are the only F1 podcast she's listened to for the last 5 years.
My God.
That's dedication.
Either that or she doesn't have any other podcast links. But happy birthday as always, Gemma. Every year, and we will continue to do this for as long as we're going. If you want to get hold of us on Twitter individually, we are
At Sean Cowper.
Flood21.
and at Pablo100. And if you want to help us out and get the and also get the show a little early most weeks, then you can sign up to Patreon for £1, $1 or €1 a month or more, preferably. And you can do that by going to patreon.com/3legs4wheels. Right, summer break's coming up. We've got some guests lined up, so if things work to plan, we will be back next week.
This
With
is
Michael
shocking.
Burke.
If his booking agent gets back to you.
No, we won't be back with Michael Burke. I'd be very surprised if that happened.
Could you imagine? What would we do with him?
We don't even know if he likes F1.
Side note, by the way, I looked up Yuri Vips because I didn't know how old he was. He was born in 2000.
Oh, he's younger than we
He's
all
young,
thought.
young.
Oh, he is not but a child.
He is not born in 1989.
No. We are premature. He just looks old.
He has a wise
Yes.
face.
It's all that fresh Estonian air. Right, we're going. We'll hopefully be back next week.
With
Have a-
Michael Burke.
Maybe with Michael Burke, maybe not with Michael Burke.
Hashtag get Michael Burke on 3 legs 4 wheels.
That's a long hashtag.
Who knows?
Give it a go. It might work. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.